Please welcome Director of Christian Mission at YMCA of Greater Indianapolis, Josh Heaston.
June 20th of 2000. I was riddled in addiction. My life was a mess, and I was contemplating suicide in the basement of a home on the east side of Toledo, Ohio. In this very basement, over by that water heater, I came to the realization that I had a God-shaped size hole in my heart, and I've been trying to fill it with money, relationships, and many other things, only to be let down, unfulfilled, and now finding myself at the lowest point of my life. It was in that moment I made a decision to fully surrender my life to God and His ways. That profound moment radically changed my heart, my life, my purpose, and my future. I keep a picture of that basement in my YMCA office, and I often think back to that moment. One of the things I realized about that season of my life is that no one saw me. There was no one in my life trying to help me or walk with me through my darkest hours. 23 years later, I'm often asked why I serve at the YMCA. My answer is simple. I want to now be the person who's there to help others in their time of need. There's one short, obscure verse in the New Testament that has helped shape my YMCA leadership, and I want to share that meaningful verse with you this morning. This verse came right after Jesus was in a busy season of leading people, helping people, and also experiencing a very painful moment in his own personal life. He was weary from his work, so he went out on a boat to rest. And this is where the verse picks up, and it simply says this. When Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them. Jesus had the ability to truly see people. We currently live in a world filled with people, and it is really easy to look at them without really seeing them. It takes intentionality to truly see people, and then it takes courage to engage with them. I want to give you a definition of the word compassion this morning. Compassion is not just a feeling of deep sympathy. It is a feeling of deep sympathy accompanied by an action to help alleviate the pain or the challenge. When Jesus saw people who were hungry, it moved his heart. And then he went and fed them. Or in other words, he took action to help alleviate their challenge. Or when Jesus saw a lonely, isolated man with leprosy, his heart was moved. And then he took initiative to engage with the man and help alleviate the pain. It's in that vein I want to tell you a true story about a lonely, isolated man in my YMCA. And I would even go as far to say that this man is in every YMCA across the United States. He is old, he is mean, he is grumpy, he always wants to talk politics, and when he speaks to you, he will get in your personal space and even get a little spittle on you. This man would come into the YMCA to work out, and when people would see him, it was like the Red Sea would part. Nobody wanted to be around this man. At that time, I was working at the front desk of the Wolf Creek YMCA in Maumee, Ohio. I love you, Toledo. I was praying daily at my desk that God would use me to make a physical and spiritual difference in the life of just one person every day. Well, one day I felt a nudge that I was supposed to love, serve, and care for this very difficult man. It wasn't easy, but I was determined. He would come into the YMCA and I would just sit in the lobby, have a coffee with him for a few minutes and just talk. Or sometimes I would even take a few laps with him around our indoor track. I was learning how to see him and also interact with him. I learned his name was Rolland. He was 82 years old. He served in the Navy. He worked for the post office for 40 years. He shared that he was an atheist. He had never been married. He had no kids. He had no family, and he had no friends. His entire existence was waking up, going to the library, irritating people there, coming to the YMCA, irritating people there, and then he would go home. And the next day, library, YMCA, home. That was literally this man's life. One day I saw him coming up the YMCA walkway. He opened up the front door, ran right up to my desk, smacked his hand on my desk and said, "Josh, you can't physically prove to me there's a God." I took a deep breath and said, "Good morning, Ron. It's so great to see you today." And then I simply said these words: "You're right. I can't physically prove to you there's a God. Now that we've settled that, could we just be friends?" He looked at me like, the Christian isn't going to argue with me? See, Roland didn't know what to do with genuine kindness. And that day, our friendship changed. He now wanted to know more about me, my family, my work at the YMCA. He even gave me a few stock tips. By the way, they were all losers. A few weeks later, I asked if he wanted to go out to dinner. He wanted to go to the Olive Garden, so that's where we went. He ended up having 4 glasses of wine, and I had to drive him home. I had learned how to see him and interact with him, and now I was learning how to help alleviate some of his pain of loneliness. Fast forward a few years, and Roland got sick. He had to move out of his apartment, and I helped him find a senior community and helped him move in. Fast forward a few more years, and his health continued to decline. Now he's 92 years old, and I helped him move into a facility that could help care for all of his needs. I would go visit him every month or so, and one particular visit, he turned down the TV and said, "Josh, you're young, you have a great job, you have a great family. Why do you still come and visit me?" After 10 years of friendship, I decided it was time for me to tell him about my faith journey and what had happened to me on that basement floor so many years ago. He listened intently for the next few moments. And when I was done, he simply thanked me for sharing my story. A few weeks later, I went back to see him, and he told me for the first time in 92 years that he had prayed. And he had also just gotten a Bible. And I told him I was so happy for him. Here's a picture of Roland, and that was taken right after that conversation. And friends, that is the closest thing to a smile that Roland could come up with. A few weeks later, I sent Roland this YMCA newsletter. Unfortunately, this newsletter was returned to me with the words written on it, "Return to sender, recipient is deceased." And Roland passed away. I learned that Roland's faith was not my responsibility. That was Roland's responsibility. My responsibility, and to take it just one step further, I believe our responsibility as YMCA leaders is to see people, lead with hearts of compassion, and then intentionally love, serve, and care for every person who walks through our doors. YMCA family, I want to leave you with these 3 encouragements this morning. Be a YMCA leader who sees people. Don't just look at them. Learn how to truly see them and what challenges they might be going through. Secondly, be a YMCA leader who leads with compassion. Have a tender enough heart to actually feel the deep feelings of sympathy for those who are suffering, and then enough courage to take some action to help alleviate their pain. And finally, be a YMCA leader who truly loves, serves, and cares for everyone who comes through our doors. We have been given a significant opportunity to collectively touch the lives of over 20 million people every year. May we all continue to help build healthy spirit, mind, and body in those we serve daily. God bless you, your family, and your YMCA.